Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Hott. I am an admissions counselor at the University of Rochester, and I want to extend not only my gratitude that you're here for tonight's Pre-Med at Rochester session, but also my sincere congratulations on your acceptance to the University of Rochester. Without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Jonathan Brott, who will get us started for tonight's panel.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, tonight. We hope this is a good opportunity for you to touch base with what U of R is about, and particularly in terms of those of you who are interested in pre-health, pre-med kinds of professions. I'm Jonathan Brott. I am a senior career advisor in the Green Center, and I work with the healthcare community, and I kind of give lead to that, and so work with a lot of pre-med and pre-health students. Today with us, we have three students who are non-REM students who have had experiences at University of Rochester, and they're going to share their experiences with you. I'll ask some questions up front to just get us started, and then as you have questions that are relevant, we'll answer some of those questions as well. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves first, one by one, and then if you guys just share, your name, maybe where you're from, what class you're in, kind of thing, and what your major is, just to give a reference for that kind of thing, and then we'll get started. So feel free. Why don't we go in alphabetical order here? So we'll have Garrett, Julia, and then Vishwa.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Garrett. I graduated, when did I graduate? 2023, I think. And I was an environmental health major at the U of R.
Okay, thanks. Julia?
Hi everyone, I'm Julia. I'm a current junior. I'm from a small town in Connecticut and I'm studying biochemistry and philosophy.
Hi guys, I'm Vishwa. I'm a current senior at U of R and I'm studying neuroscience and I'm from Westchester, New York.
Okay, great. I think that just gives a good start for people to understand that there's various majors and we're at various points along the way in this journey and that kind of thing. So I know that a lot of these students who applied for the REMS program and are accepted at University of Rochester, but maybe a little disappointed they didn't get into the REMS program. They may have questions about like, what's an experience for a pre-med or a pre-health person like at U of R if you're not in that program. So let me just start by asking you, and you feel free to, share as you want to, like what kind of unique pre-med experiences did you have as a Rochester undergraduate student that you know that all students would have access to?
I guess I'll go ahead and start. So start earlier. I guess for me specifically, what I can speak to at least is I like to think I had a pretty unconventional experience. A lot of people come into pre-med their freshman year, and that's kind of what they focus on all throughout college. But me personally, my first 2 years, I had no intention really of doing pre-med whatsoever. So I was a little bit late to the show, but even so, even though I started it my junior year, I still found that, I all the opportunities were there, and uh, the school definitely made it possible. So I guess it's never too late in a sense. Um, but yeah, that's just from my experience.
Yeah, so I think for me, something really unique about U of R is their open curriculum. I think in most other schools who don't have that, as a pre-med, you're kind of basically stuck to the pre-med requirements and then your major requirements. But at U of R, I was able to kind of like have more room in my schedule to explore other disciplines as well, which I think just makes you a very well-rounded person. And when it comes to like medical school applications, you just have more to talk about. So I took like a bunch of studio art classes and like became a studio art minor. So I think that's just like a really unique experience that U of R offers.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to Vishwa. I think I came in knowing I was going to be pre-med right off the bat, so I was really fortunate in that space. But one thing I really love about U of R is how integrated it is with the medical school, and even not being in REMS, you have so many opportunities to be over at the hospital and integrate yourself. And I found that the professors and the physicians at the medical school are really passionate about getting undergrads involved and opening us up to all these different experiences and showing us what medicine is really like. And so I think that's something I found is really unique about U of R is just the integration and how easy it is, like right off the bat as a freshman to just really get involved and get your feet in.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of want to add to that too is the hospital is essentially right across the street from the school. So it's not like it's even far away. Um, so yeah, as far as those opportunities go, there's plenty of them at the hospital, and you don't really have to go all that far to get them.
So that's really a good start off point, but yeah, let's be a little more specific. I know a lot of students I talk to as first year students coming in are asking, like, how do I get clinical opportunities or how do I get research and are those even available to me? So, don't give us all the detail of the DNA studies you did and the research papers you wrote, but tell it like what kind of research were you able to do and what kind of clinical exposure did you have?
So for me at least, kind of like I was saying earlier, how I was a bit late to the game. I just basically cold emailed a bunch of professors at the U of R, essentially till one hit. And, maybe not the most conventional way of going about it, but it worked for me. And I worked in a lab that studied microplastics and the effects that they have on the respiratory system, as well as good ways to collect them. Uh, so yeah, that was the kind of focus of that lab, which I thought was really cool and related a lot to my major. So I really enjoyed that.
I think coming in, I was really excited to get involved in research since it's never been something I was exposed to before. And I got super lucky, especially at U of R. I think research is a huge part of the culture here. And so if that's something you're looking to do, it's something that is really accessible to you. And so my freshman year, I reached out to a couple of different labs of the research I was interested in. I kind of like read through the studies they were doing and read through some of the papers they had published and reached out to a couple of different PIs, and I ended up meeting with a PI in a leukemia research lab, in which I'm still working in today. And I think that experience has really shaped my time at U of R because it's been such a wonderful mentorship for me with all the people in my lab and specifically the PI of my lab. And I've had a lot of peers who've had similar experiences, and there's so many different ways you can get involved in research. You can, cold email like I did, or you can apply through JobLink to be a tech, or you can connect with other undergrads and see what they're doing on campus. So I think it's a really great opportunity to have here.
Yeah. I can speak a little bit about like getting clinical experience. I cur oh my God, I currently work as a patient care technician at Strong. And like it's been such a great opportunity. And it's a really solid part of like why I want to go to medical school. And many people I know like work at Strong like that. And I think it's like just the connection between U of R and Strong is so strong to find those opportunities. There's like there's like sometimes career fairs on campus where you can go to where they'll have applications for you to fill out and let you know about like openings. And you can also just like email like certain nurse managers, and all these people are like very readily available to you. And like since Strong is a teaching hospital, a lot of these people like having students there and like, people to learn from the hospital. So it's definitely an opportunity that's pretty easy to find.
I
Good.
also, sorry,
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
just want to
Garrett.
add it to the clinical experience because I forgot to mention that.
Mhm.
I guess right now, so after I graduated, I started working as an EMT in Rochester. And I know we have the MERT program also at the school, both of which are definitely available to people. But yeah, I've gotten plenty of clinical experience doing that, working in the city of Rochester. I think our agency alone, we get 100,000 calls a year. So we're running all day, and I can promise you see it all. So I guess in that sense, Rochester does provide that unique opportunity, uh, just with that being available. And we're always hiring if you're interested in joining. So
Always the recruiter, Garrett. Um, Yeah, so as you can begin to see already, and just talking with three people, there's different different clinical experiences, different research, different ways to go about it. And do know that, I work in the Green Center with the healthcare advisors. And so do know that we also support you. Sometimes it feels a little scary about all of that. But we're there to support you and help you figure that out and know how to do resumes and know how to do interviewing and all those kinds of things to support you. But let me come back to the students and ask you guys, what would you say is the overall vibe of pre-med and pre-health community in Rochester? What does it feel like? Is it supportive? Is it competitive? How would you describe that?
I could talk a little bit about this. This is my favorite question to answer. But I would say at U of R, it's very collaborative. I found a lot of other institutions, it can be very competitive, very cutthroat. You're constantly competing for opportunities. But I think at U of R, the way the classes are structured, the way that the professors teach, and just the environment of the student body, it's very collaborative, and it's more like we're collectively working together to empower one another to reach this common goal and helping each other to do that versus like actively competing against your peers. And I think a big part of that is just the abundance of opportunity. There's so much opportunity to get involved, like Vishwa and Garrett said, in different clinical opportunities, different research opportunities, and just all these like great different programs. And I think U of R really emphasizes that everyone's path to medicine is very, very different. And that's a great thing. And it's really great that nobody's path is identical. So that really allows us all to just, take our own path and help each other get there, which I think has been really nice.
I definitely second that. U of R is like super collaborative, and I think like even amongst different classes, I think there's a huge mentorship culture at U of R too. Different like student organizations on campus sometimes have like mentorship programs and stuff like that for, I guess, like seniors and juniors to mentor freshmen and sophomores, things like that. Usually people are always open to share their experiences, and people do have a lot of experience at U of R. So it's just like a really, really wonderful environment that I think like all of us have probably benefited from.
Yeah, I guess what I wanted to add is I definitely had a lot of friends that were in pre-med, which certainly sort of helped to that sort of collaborative nature. I would describe it as being the opposite of cutthroat. I really don't think I ever felt that way at all throughout my time there. And I don't know if this is unique to the U of R. One of, I guess someone would have to correct me on this, but at least we have workshops, I guess, for a lot of our classes. Which if you're not familiar with them, you have your lecture, and then following your lecture, you generally have a smaller sort of get together with about 10 or so students where you cover the material that you did in lecture. And I was a workshop leader for a couple classes, and that was a big thing that I tried to get, or I guess emphasize was that sort of collaborative nature, getting people to work together to help each other figure out the problems that we worked on in those environments. So
Julia, somebody asked a question about your comment that the med school and the hospital are pretty integrated with the undergraduate school and the opportunities. They wanted to know, what specific kinds of opportunities did that open up for you?
Yeah, I think the way that got really opened up for me was a lot of like the mentorship I've received at U of R. Like specifically my PI, he's works at the medical school and the hospital, so he's been able to connect me with a lot of different departments. But I think there's also just a lot of organizations on campus. We have EDRA, MAPS, CDRU, which is a pre-health society, all these different organizations that have like specific programs to help you actually connect with people in the medical school. And I think that opens up opportunities just for shadowing physicians, making connections, meeting people to join labs, and even, getting opportunities to interview for clinical jobs, things like that.
Sure, and because that path is well worn for many years now, there's always opportunities, starting with volunteering there, and sometimes shadowing opportunities, and sometimes just building great relationships, like Julia said, with mentors and people there. Another question that came up here is have you been able to publish your research? Anyone want to take that one on?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I'm actually me and my lab, I work in like a cardiovascular like clinical research center. So we do like mainly clinical research, and we did the study on palliative care of and like different palliative care outcomes for or like end of life care for like, cancer patients and cancer patients with cardiovascular comorbidities. Sorry for getting into my research a little bit, but um, yeah, so we're actually very close to becoming published. We submitted our manuscript to a journal, and we're undergoing like the peer review process. And I'll probably be published before I graduate. So, and I know like definitely many other of my peers have who've been in a lab have gotten published or are in the process of getting published. So it's definitely a huge possibility.
Yeah, I can speak to that too. All the research that I worked on too actually just got published. So
Very good, Garrett. There's a thing here about somebody's EFR. Can they participate in EMT as a freshman? I assume that would be a licensing thing with different states, right? The whole EMT thing and all of that is really state licensing, and sometimes you have to get reciprocity in a different state on that.
yeah, I think so. I do know. Yeah, I'm not specifically sure, but generally speaking, we require an EMT license, at least where I work. And I think MERT does as well. But I know that through MERT you can get your EMT license. So yeah, I was not in MERT, so I can't really speak to that. I wouldn't take my word for everything, but from the people I know.
Sure, and that's the kind of question that once you're on campus, that again, you might come to a Green Center advisor and talk through these things and figure out how do I take the license I got in the state I'm from, and how do I gain those opportunities that I'm looking for here at U of R. Let's talk a little bit about how do you guys see that the University of Rochester has supported you and supported other pre-health students you've known? Uh, in what ways do you feel supported?
I think having the Green Center always available is really helpful. And just, I know I go all the time and ask pretty much any question I can think of. And it's a good way to just talk through the process and help make these really difficult decisions. And um, I know I've utilized the Green Center a lot for things like mock interviews or, working on my resume, things like that, and just getting started on things that you might not necessarily know what the first step to take is, and they really are accessible all the time, even after you graduate. So it's a really great resource to have.
Yeah, to add to that, and I'm not saying this just because he's here, but the Green Center and Jonathan Bratt have been such a good resource for me, even as a graduate. I don't even go to the school anymore, but I still meet with Jonathan on the regular, figuring out how I'm going to get my application together and whatnot. So that has been an incredible resource that I've been using quite a bit recently.
Go ahead, Visha.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Green Center is definitely like a wonderful resource to have. Even if like you decide midway through your time at U of R that you don't want to be pre-med anymore, the Green Center is still a great place to get like general career advice. There's so much there. Um, and I think also like again, there's like a lot of different like student orgs on campus too. Like there's MAPS and other like professional organizations that like Julia also mentioned a little bit. And they also provide like a lot of support.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And know that, yeah, the Green Center, we organize in these career communities, and we have a healthcare community. In that healthcare community, you can join it easily by joining that in Handshake and on the Green Center website. And what we do is curate information about events, about things you ought to be thinking about. There's blogs, there's all kinds of information, jobs, internships, those kinds of things that are available to you. We also have a Design Your Life class, and we have a healthcare edition of that I actually teach, and we help you explore broadly healthcare professions and not just one track, but many different things. So that's another way we support. Some of the other questions coming in, some have asked, is it easy to get funding for research or get credit for research? Tell us a little bit about that. Did you guys take research for credit, or was your research funded in any way?
I can speak to this a little bit because I've done two out of these three things. So basically, I was a recipient of the Schwartz Discover grant last summer, and that's just basically a grant. It's run by the Green Center, and you just get a stipend to live at in Rochester and do research under like mentorship. And it's just like a wonderful program. It's a great way to learn to meet other students doing research. And there's also like a huge symposium at the end. It's just a great way to get like research opportunity while staying or research experience while staying in Rochester over the summer. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities for grants and funding in that way. There's more grants than just the Discover grant as well. And then for credit, a lot of the time there'll within any like major or minor, there'll be like an independent research course that you can take. So if you're already doing research with a mentor or a PI or in some lab, you can enroll in that course and like meet with an advisor and get credit for the potential research that you're doing and have that count towards your minor or major. And I did some independent research for like psychology that I got some credit for to count towards my minor. So this is very possible.
Others want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I guess I never took or did the credit route. I considered it, but I ended up just wanting to get paid through my lab. But I know that's not always the option with every lab. You know, some don't have the funding available to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, you still can get credit for it. Um, so there's definitely it's just I feel like it's a case by case scenario a lot of the time.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to Vishwa. I did research for credit in my lab for 2 semesters, and I think it's a good experience to take on more responsibility in a project. And then at the end of that, you can either do a poster or a paper. And so I chose a paper both times, and it was nice because it gave me experience in like what it would be like to write a paper for publication. And now I'm able to like kind of use that to guide the paper I'm writing for publication. So that was a really good experience. And I know U of R also has like research presentation grants you can apply for and supplemental funding grants that you can apply if you really want to present your research at a conference or something. So those are really good opportunities as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing. The question's been asked if any of you have applied for med school yet, and do a lot of students take gap years? Let's start with you guys talking about your experience with applying for med school and if you've done that yet, and I can probably speak to some of the details about gap years and that kind of thing.
So I'll probably more than likely I'm going to apply this upcoming application cycle for this summer. I am currently on my second gap year and will I guess be moving into my third gap year. Um, Personally, I'm a proponent of gap years because going straight into medical school, which I guess you would do for REMS, but you know, once you're in it, you're more or less committed to that life. So I feel like having a gap year is certainly a great opportunity to get some time for yourself, earn a little bit of money before going into medical school, depending on what you do, and really just getting unique experiences that you more than likely wouldn't get just within medicine and whatnot. So yeah, there's definitely, I'm a huge proponent of gap years, and I think you should take as many as you want, but I'm slightly biased towards that. So
Yeah, I'm also applying next cycle with Garrett. So I'm applying right out of college, so I will be taking one gap year. Um, I agree. I think I would be like way too burnt out if I just went into medical school without a gap year. And also, going straight through means you have to apply during your junior year. So that means taking your MCAT early, making sure that you have all of your requirements completed within the first few years of school. And that's just not something that like I really wanted to do. And I thought that like my senior year, I've just had so much more experience and like taken some really interesting classes, and I just wanted that to be reflected in my application as well.
I will be applying next cycle, so about a year from now. Um, but yeah, when I first came to U of R, I was really in the mindset of I didn't want to take a gap year. I just wanted to go straight through. But I think, as you settle into things, that tends to change a little bit, or it might not for you. I have plenty of friends who didn't do that and they've been very successful as well. But I think I really agree that taking a gap year definitely has its value and just allowing you to do things that you want to do that you might not get the chance to once you are busy in med school for 4 years, and just having the opportunity to do things that you really like in college that might not necessarily just be for your application.
Yeah, let me say, just generally, I know that last year, last application year, 70% of students who applied last year all took gap years, 40% had two or more. This has become a norm, and for those of you who are part of medical families that had doctors 30 years ago, this is seen sometimes as a lazy thing to do, but it really is the norm in our day and age because it's so much more competitive and it's so hard to do everything you do. Like Vishwa mentioned, that if you apply in your junior year, you're applying against seniors and people who have been 1 and 2 years out, like Garrett, and you can't even put anything you did in your senior year or your junior summer. So, like, what are the odds that you're going to raise at the top in that? So, there's good reasons to take gap years, and people do all kinds of things during gap years. Some people gain experiences that are, if you need clinical and that's a weak part in your application, that's a good thing to do. If you need research, some people do that. Some people do service kinds of things. Other people just make lots of money and pay off all their loans in undergrad school, so they're prepared to take on the debt of med school. Med schools see that as wise. So don't be afraid of a gap year. Let's have you guys share like one of your favorite experiences at University of Rochester. Could be pre-medical stuff, or it could be just a great thing that you experienced at you or a club you're part of, a fraternity, whatever it is, right? One great thing about it.
I guess I could go first. I have two. I have one non-pre-med and then one pre-med. So for my non-pre-med experience, it would have to be like the clubs on campus. I'm part of Aditi, which is like the South Asian organization or student organization on campus, and I've been on it since I was a freshman. I'm still on it as a senior. And I think I've just like met so many of my friends through that club. Like it's just so like wonderful to come together with a bunch of other people with similar interests as you and create this beautiful community on campus. And I think like that's some like microcosm that you can only find in a university environment, which I just like love that experience so much. And then for my pre-med experience, I think it would have to be one of the classes I'm taking this semester. It's for my neuroscience major, but it meets every me week on Mondays for 3 hours, and we have a guest lecturer physician come in and talk to us about a different neurological disorder. And through the class, we also get an opportunity to shadow a physician, and I shadowed a vascular neurosurgeon, which I thought was super, super interesting. And I don't know if I would have had the opportunity to do that outside of this class. So that was just a wonderful experience for me.
Okay, I'll do something similar, I guess. So for my non-pre-med memory, I think one thing that was really cool, I think definitely the best thing about U of R is the people here. I think the people are really amazing and they really make your college experience, which is really cliche, but it's very true. Was so in one of my classes, we had the opportunity to make like a music video for extra credit. So one night, it was like the night before it was due, all of my friends collectively decided to do this project, and we all just like stayed up the entire night and we all like helped each other make the videos. And it was just a really terrible night, but it was really funny. And I think we all just like worked together and it was, a really core memory for some reason. And for my pre-med memory, I think um just like a lot of times shadowing, you'll have like eye-opening experiences. And one for me was I was shadowing a pediatric hematologist oncologist at Strong, and they have so many different people on the staff that serve all these different purposes. And one of the people on the staff is a social worker who has sickle cell anemia. And every time they get a new patient with sickle cell anemia, they bring her into the room, and she has like a conversation and shows like how like well her quality of life is and everything. And it's like every single time the whole family cries and everyone's so grateful. And I think it's just been like very humbling to show like how many different people go into healthcare and like making the patient experience so much better, and how like well society is doing and like making healthcare so much better for people. And it's really been one of like the core things that's made me want to go into medicine. So I think all those experiences, if you ask any pre-med, someone has something like that at U of R.
I guess my favorite pre-med experience to start with that. Um, Honestly, I really enjoy. I loved being a workshop leader at U of R. Um, just teaching students and whatnot. Um, like I said earlier, like I really like to establish that collaborative environment. I love being able to just see my students get the things we were going over, especially when they were really confused going into it. So just me personally, that I had a lot of fun doing that and whatnot. Outside of that, I was in a fraternity and I had a lot of fun with that. A lot of my friends in that fraternity, they were also pre-meds and a couple pre-dentals as well. So, we all struggled together, but we all had fun together at the end of the day too. So,
So, what advice would you have if you were talking to yourself coming in now as first year students? What advice would you have for yourself coming into University of Rochester as a first year student, knowing what you know now?
I think, yeah, I would definitely say, um, get off campus. Don't be sucked into an academic bubble. I think U of R, everyone there is like, very studious. And I think like as a freshman, especially if you're pre-med, like you come in and I think it's really easy to get caught up in classes and grades and like making sure you're doing everything at the right time. But Rochester has a lot to offer, and same with like New York or surrounding areas. And I think like I've had the most fun in college when um I've, taken my time and like explored Rochester and explored like the surrounding areas of upstate New York. So I definitely think like get out, explore, don't get super caught up in everything, and remember to have fun.
Yeah, I would say to just try new things. And if you are worried about trying something, just do it anyways, especially your freshman year. I think like some things that I wish I did my freshman year, I didn't do because I was like, well, I don't know, it's not a good time. I'll just do it later in college. And then I had like always wished I did it my freshman year, because you're never going to be as free as you are your freshman year. So yeah, I would say just don't be afraid to try everything. I think U of R has like a lot to offer and will give you a lot of new experiences. So
yeah, I really want to harp on the having fun part because it's really easy to get caught up in school and studying and spending hours upon hours in the library, and that'll definitely drain you if you don't take a break. So, there's plenty to do in Rochester, especially in the surrounding areas. There's great places to hike and whatnot. Um, but yeah, don't get too caught up in school.
Yeah, that's so hard, isn't it? When you come from high school thinking you got to do all these great things to get into college, and then you get to college and you're like, you got this check off list, like how many great things do I need to do to go to the next step, right? The reality is everybody applying for med school has good grades, has a great MCAT score, has experiences that are pretty much the same. And let's face it, people who are interested in medicine have some of the same kind of personalities, some of the same kind of interest. There might be two or three different models of med school people, but you're all pretty much the same. So there's nothing like super unique other than what you decide to do outside of all that. The decisions you make about, oh, I got involved in the city of Rochester helping, feed the poor, or oh, I got involved in this, or oh, I joined a dance club and I got really involved in dance. All those things are the things that make you unique and interesting. And when you write a personal statement someday for a med school or whatever program you're going for, they say, oh, this is an interesting person. They've explored lots of things and done lots of things. We have a question in the Q&A about what's been the most difficult part of preparing for med school applications. You might extend that because all of you haven't quite done that yet, or you may not know what the most difficult yet is, but maybe you can just share like what's been the most difficult part of the journey as well as doing the application thing.
I can answer first. I think really a lot of it is just a mental game. I think for me, the most difficult part is knowing that I'm on the right track and I'm not falling behind. Um, and I think like it's important to emphasize that everyone has their own path and it's easy to compare yourself to others, and that's something that I really struggled with. I think like the Green Center, we've mentioned this before, but is a great resource to kind of meet with the advisors to make sure you're on track. I've definitely utilized that a few times. And then beyond that, more technically, I think studying for the MCAT was kind of hard. I felt like a non-person while doing it, but I think U of R's classes prepared me well for it. Yeah, I think those are probably my two biggest things.
I think it's all hard, um, to varying degrees. But yeah, if it was easy, everybody would do it, and it's not. So not everybody does it. Um, so I think a big factor that kind of helps you out a lot is time management. So I think that's something you'll definitely get really good at. Um, but just being able to figure that out initially was definitely a little bit hard for me. So yeah.
I'm gonna have to agree with the MCAT part because I just think it's really hard to study for the MCAT while you're taking a full course load and you're also trying to do all these other things to prepare for your application. So yeah, I think the best time to do it is, I mean, different for everybody, but when you have the most time, like a summer or something, but you're always gonna have to sacrifice some part of your application to take it. And I think that's really hard for me, at least, is giving up things that I want to do, but it is a really important part. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think it's so important to remember when you come here that it's not about doing it all on your own. It's not about, figuring it all out by yourself and all that kind of stuff. It's you have a team, you have a group, you have professors, you have fellow students, and you'll hear lots of different people doing it lots of different ways, and that's okay. You learn from what they learn from, but you don't have to figure out your path all by yourself. You have people to help guide, and talking with people is so important to clarify your own goals and what you want to do. I can't overemphasize how different all of our pre-med people are. They're not all in this doing the same things to get where they're getting. They may have a common destination, but we had a dance major 3 or 4 years ago that took dance and took their prereqs through a biology minor, and they got into med school because their story was they wanted to be in sports medicine and they weren't really sporty, and so they wanted to know in their own body what they would be doing, right? So that's a compelling story, right? And then we've had music majors get in, and we've had religion and philosophy and psychology and public health people. And so everyone doesn't take the same pathway. You all take the same prereqs and stuff, but there's just lots of different ways to explore your interest. And that's the other thing I always see, that people often come to U of R because of its open curriculum, and then they get here as a pre-med student and act like it's a closed curriculum. And like, oh, I got to take this, and I got to take this when everybody else takes it and everything. So, just be free to explore those kind of things. We're coming down to about time here for us to end. I'm just going to throw it to the students one more time. Any last minute snippet or sentence or phrase that you would give us, slogan to encourage us who might be in the pre-health professions and pathways?
I'd say come to U of R. It's a really great place.
Cool, thanks.
I wouldn't have went anywhere else.
Yeah, I'd say definitely make a decision that's best for you, but I think U of R is a really great place to be and really fosters your passion for medicine if that's what you're interested in.
Well, I'm going to throw it back over to you, Devin, if there's any closing words to close up as you share. Thanks.
Certainly. Well, thank you to Jonathan, to Vishwa, to Julia, and to Garrett for their time this evening. Thank you to all of you for joining us and asking these really great, thoughtful questions. Again, congratulations on your acceptance to the University of Rochester. Thank you for your time, and thank you to our wonderful panelists.